Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to unpack a really interesting story about second chances and the power of tech. I've got some articles here and personal notes, all about Brian Rowe, who was recently granted clemency by President Biden after serving 11 years of a 30-year sentence. You might be thinking, okay, but where does the tech part come in? Well, that's where things get really fascinating. Buckle up, because Brian's story is about to take us on a deep dive into resilience, transformation, and how AWS Educate became a lifeline for him.
What's striking about Brian's case is that it really throws a spotlight on those systemic issues we see within our justice system. Let's start at the beginning. In 2010, Brian was convicted on a drug conspiracy charge for selling and distributing cocaine, ultimately receiving a 30-year sentence, now clemency, which is essentially a reduction of a sentence. It's different from parole or a pardon. Clemency is granted by the president, while parole is determined by a parole board. A pardon, on the other hand, is a complete forgiveness of the offense.
So here's Brian, facing this incredibly daunting sentence. At a relatively young age, you can imagine how overwhelming that must feel. The weight of all those years stretching out ahead of him.
Absolutely. But what's remarkable is that Brian refused to let this define him. It would have been easy to give in to despair, but instead, he took a different path. He became a champion for himself, advocating for his own clemency. He immersed himself in books, devoured knowledge, and even managed to finish his degree in information systems while incarcerated.
Wait, hold on. He earned a degree in information systems while in prison? That's incredible. What drove him to do that?
I think it speaks to his inherent desire to learn, to better himself, even under such difficult circumstances. And it's important to remember that educational opportunities in prisons are often limited and underfunded.
You're right. Access to education is often taken for granted on the outside, but inside, it can be a lifeline, a way to maintain a sense of hope and purpose.
Exactly. And for Brian, it was also a way to prepare himself for a future he was determined to create. And here's where his story takes a really interesting turn. Brian also found solace and a powerful way to express himself through art. He began painting. And there's this really evocative detail about him literally painting his way out of prison, visualizing his future on canvas.
That's incredible. I can almost picture it. The brushstrokes becoming a tangible representation of his hopes and dreams.
It's a powerful testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the drive to create even in the face of adversity.
And it seems like his unwavering belief in himself paid off. President Biden granted him clemency in December 2024 as part of a broader effort to address the sentencing disparities we see with nonviolent drug offenses.
There's an interesting pattern here with the month of December in Brian's life. He was originally sentenced in December 2010. Then he boldly declared that he would be home early in December 2017. Fast forward to December 2021, and he was granted home confinement. And finally, his clemency arrived in December 2024. It really underscores the power of mindset and how crucial it is to believe in your own ability to shape your destiny.
You're right. It's like those Decembers became these symbolic milestones in his journey. Now let's shift gears a bit and dive into the tech side of Brian's story. That's where AWS Educate enters the picture.
This is where the conversation gets really interesting. Imagine being released after over a decade behind bars, trying to rebuild your life. You're facing so many obstacles, including the stigma that often comes with a criminal record.
Absolutely. Finding employment, housing, and even educational opportunities can be incredibly difficult. It's like starting from scratch with a system that isn't always set up to support you.
Exactly. So after his release, Brian started looking for affordable educational options to further his tech skills. He stumbled upon AWS Educate, which is a program that offers free cloud skills training. It's like a gateway to this world of in-demand tech jobs, covering everything from generative AI to cybersecurity.
Okay, so let's dive a little deeper into AWS Educate. This program is all about accessibility, right?
Absolutely. It's designed to be accessible to anyone, regardless of their background or financial situation. That's key for someone like Brian, who is navigating the challenges of reentry and looking for ways to build a new life for himself.
So what makes AWS Educate so unique? What does it actually offer someone like Brian?
Well, for starters, it's completely free, which is huge. But it's not just about cost. AWS Educate provides training in the most sought-after tech skills like cloud computing, cybersecurity, and even cutting-edge fields like generative AI. These are skills that are in high demand across industries.
Right. And imagine for someone re-entering the workforce,
Yeah.
having those in-demand skills could be the difference between landing a job and struggling to find opportunities.
Precisely. It's about equipping individuals with the tools they need to not only compete in the job market, but to thrive in it. And AWS Educate goes beyond just theory. They offer hands-on labs, practice exercises, and even industry-recognized certifications.
So it's not just about learning the concepts, it's about gaining practical experience. That can translate directly into real-world skills. That's got to be incredibly valuable for someone like Brian, who's trying to prove himself in a new field.
Exactly. And let's not forget the psychological impact. When you earn a badge or a certification, it's a validation of your skills and hard work. That kind of recognition can be incredibly empowering, especially for someone who might be struggling with their self-worth after incarceration.
There's that anecdote about Brian earning his first badge and feeling like a kid in a candy store. It's such a great image. That really captures this sense of accomplishment and renewed hope that comes with achieving something tangible.
It's that spark, that belief in yourself, that can make all the difference. Imagine the feeling of going from a place where your freedom was restricted to a space where your potential is limitless. That's the power of education and opportunity.
It's incredibly inspiring, and it also highlights the importance of providing second chances and breaking down the barriers that prevent people with criminal records from succeeding.
Yes, and Brian's story really underscores that. It's a powerful reminder that people can change, that they can learn from their mistakes, and that they can contribute to society in meaningful ways if given the opportunity.
So it's not just about personal redemption for Brian, it's about what he can then offer his community. And from what we've read, he's not just content with his own success, right? He wants to use his experience to help others who have faced similar challenges.
That's right. Brian's story is about transformation, yes, but it's also about giving back. He has this vision of launching his own tech company and providing tech training and mentorship to his community, especially to young people and formerly incarcerated individuals.
It's incredible to see how he's taking his experience and turning it into a positive force for change. He could have easily focused solely on his own success, but instead he's committed to uplifting others.
It's a powerful ripple effect, and it goes beyond just Brian. His brother, Dwayne, has spoken about how inspired he is by Brian's resilience and positive mindset. It shows how one person's transformation can impact those around them.
It's a testament to the power of hope and determination. And you know what really drives the point home? Brian is currently interning with an AWS partner, a real-world example of how these skills can translate into a successful career in tech.
And that's a crucial point. It's not just a feel-good story, it's a tangible demonstration of the effectiveness of programs like AWS Educate in bridging the gap between education and employment, particularly for those who might face barriers to traditional pathways.
Okay, so we've talked about Brian's journey, his transformation, and the impact of AWS Educate. But I think it's important to take a step back and consider some of the broader themes at play here.
I agree. Brian's story raises some important questions about second chances, about the role of education and rehabilitation, and about the systemic issues that lead to mass incarceration in the first place.
It's interesting because, on the one hand, you have this inspiring story of personal transformation and the power of technology to create opportunities. But on the other hand, Brian's case really exposes those systemic issues within our justice system that we can't ignore.
Right, like, how is it that someone could be given a 30-year sentence for a nonviolent drug offense in the first place? That's a huge chunk of someone's life. It really makes you question whether the punishment fits the crime, doesn't it?
It does. And while clemency is definitely a positive step, it feels more like a Band-Aid solution than addressing the root of the problem.
I think that's a fair assessment. Clemency is a powerful tool, but it's reactive rather than proactive. It shouldn't be the only solution for addressing the over-incarceration we see in the United States, especially when it comes to nonviolent drug offenses.
Exactly. We need to be looking at those policies that contribute to mass incarceration, like mandatory minimum sentencing laws, which often result in disproportionately long sentences, even for nonviolent crimes.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the length of sentences. We need to examine the racial disparities within the justice system, the lack of adequate reentry programs, and the social and economic barriers that people face when they're released from prison.
It's like setting people up to fail almost. If you're released from prison without support, without access to education or job training, how are you supposed to rebuild your life and become a productive member of society?
You raise a crucial point. Successful reintegration requires a multifaceted approach. That includes addressing those systemic issues we've discussed, but also ensuring access to things like housing, healthcare, mental health services, and job training programs.
It's about recognizing that people deserve a real chance to turn their lives around. not just empty words about second chances. Brian's story really showcases what can happen when we give people those opportunities.
Yeah.
But it also makes you wonder, how many others are out there, stuck in a system that doesn't prioritize rehabilitation?
That's a question worth pondering. How many talented individuals are we overlooking? Because of a past mistake, think of the potential contributions that are being lost.
Not just to society as a whole, but to the individuals themselves. It's not just about economic productivity. It's about human potential, about allowing people to contribute their talents and skills, and to feel a sense of purpose and belonging.
I think it's also important to consider the economic impact. When we invest in rehabilitation and re-entry programs, it's not just a social good, it's an economic win. People who are employed, contributing to the economy, paying taxes, that benefits everyone.
Absolutely. It's a smart investment in our future, really. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Brian Rowe's story, it's clear that there are multiple layers to unpack here.
There is the individual journey of resilience and transformation, the power of technology to create opportunities, and the urgent need to address those systemic issues that perpetuate a cycle of incarceration and inequality.
If access to education and opportunity can be so transformative for someone like Brian, what other systemic barriers are preventing individuals from reaching their full potential? It's a question we all need to grapple with, both individually and collectively. What can we do, even in small ways, to challenge the status quo and create a more just and equitable society? Maybe supporting organizations that are working on criminal justice reform, advocating for policy changes, or simply having more open and honest conversations about these complex issues. Brian's story is a powerful reminder that everyone deserves a second chance and that true justice lies in creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.